Emotional pleas coming from a wife as her husband is arrested by federal agents. This all part of an immigration raid at a Sacramento Home Depot as other raids took place across the county. Border Patrol agents started conducting those immigration enforcement operations earlier today. Thanks for being with us at 5. I'm Gulston Dart.
I'm Lisa Gonzalez. In a social media post, the Border Patrol chief says that man was arrested for impeding or assaulting a U.S. federal officer. That's what you were seeing in that video. 8 others were arrested on suspicion of being in the country without authorization. He says one man was wanted for charges related to fentanyl trafficking. So here's what we know about these operations today. Sacramento police say they were notified of the raids about 5:40 this morning. Sacramento County Sheriff's deputies learned about the operations 2 hours later. Deputies say they received a call before that about a group of armed people at the Home Depot on Florin Road. That was about 7:45. They received notification from Border Patrol agents of their operations 4 minutes later. And then before 8 o'clock, deputies received another call of an operation on a parkway near Franklin Boulevard. The caller said people were breaking into his home. Well, those people were Border Patrol agents. And Sac police say another incident was on Titan Parkway, also near Franklin Boulevard. They say agents were looking for a very specific person.
We have team coverage on the raids, including rallies against the Trump administration's immigration policies. And we also are getting a reaction from lawmakers in our area regarding the operations. First, let's go to KCRA3's Maricela De La Cruz. So, Maricela, you were at that Home Depot all day, and you actually had a chance to talk with that wife of that man who was arrested.
Yeah, Andrea Castillo spoke with us earlier today. There was a lot of activity out here when we first arrived this morning, but she told us that she actually came out after her husband, Jose Castillo, called her because he believed that there was ICE presence at this parking lot. She says she made it out here very quickly and caught part of the interaction between Castillo and immigration agents. Part of that involved his arrest, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what led to his detention today.
What are you doing?
A South Sacramento woman.
He's a U.S. citizen!
Pleading with federal immigration agents to release her husband during an immigration raid at a Home Depot parking lot in South Sacramento, where multiple people were detained, including 31-year-old Jose Castillo, a Migra Watch volunteer who is documenting the immigration activity. His wife, Andrea, arrived to this location attempting to let federal agents know that her husband is a U.S. citizen.
We never thought that this would be happening. We knew of the fears because of the president and everything that he's been doing, and we know that our people are being targeted. Like, we knew all of that, but we never thought it would be us because we're safe, right? This is America. If you're a U.S. citizen, you're protected by the Constitution. Your rights, you have rights, but clearly you don't.
Agents took Castillo into custody after a brief foot chase in the parking lot where they took him to the ground. In the video that Andrea shared, you can hear one of the agents saying that Jose flattened a tire. Listen to this clip.
He just flattened a tire.
KCRA3 obtained these images of the slashed tires. The Border Patrol has not responded to KCRA on Castillo's detention. Chief Patrol Agent Gregory Vavina posted an edited video on X with a clip of Castillo with his face blurred, saying he was arrested for impeding and/or assaulting a U.S. federal officer. KCRA also reached out to NorCal Resist, who says they're looking into the allegation.
As far as our volunteer, Jose, we are absolutely gutted. Again, we train our volunteers in best practices to make sure that they know their rights, they know the rights of the immigrants if they're detained, and that they feel empowered knowing that they have a right to do this and that they're not doing anything unlawful.
And in that social media video that was shared earlier today by Border Patrol, they did say that they arrested 8 undocumented people in South Sacramento. For now, we're live. Maricela De La Cruz, KCRA3 News.
Maricela, thank you. And while immigration raids are often associated with immigration and customs enforcement officers, Border Patrol officers can conduct arrests up to 100 miles away from a border, and that border includes coastlines. You see it highlighted in red on this map. Sacramento just falls within that range. The ACLU says nearly 2/3 of people in the U.S. actually live within the 100-mile border zone.
Well, right now, people are taking part in what's being called a Good Trouble rally at the state capitol. good-sized crowd there. Live Copter 3 getting these exclusive shots right overhead there on the West Steps. And the rally was planned before the raids happened today. It's focusing on things like immigration and cuts to Medicaid and other Trump administration policies. Good trouble, by the way. It's in reference to civil rights leader and former Congressman John Lewis. He died 5 years ago today. And KCRA 3's Carolina Estrada is there at the ground level at the state capitol with the demonstrations today. We can hear the chanting behind you, Carolina. What are you seeing and hearing?
Yeah, Golson, people continue to gather outside the state capitol. Hundreds are already out here, and this rally just getting started. You can see behind me a speaker that just started right now was actually mentioning the raid at the Home Depot that happened earlier today. She says that this is an issue of public safety, of people being taken, and it's creating fear among the immigrant community here in Sacramento, and you can hear people cheering on and chanting. As you can see here, hundreds with signs, some of them calling out for ICE to be out of Sacramento for an end to these raids, but they're also concerned about the federal cuts. We spoke to some people that came out here to this rally from different areas of Sacramento. They say that that's one of their major concerns as well. And this is all part of the Good Trouble Lives On rally, which was actually organized by SEIU Union Group, and it's part of a national day of action to honor the legacy of John Lewis and to advocate for civil and human rights. People out here tell us they plan to protest peacefully everything that is happening in the country right now. They're going to have several more speakers out here, among them people from NorCal Resist, who was one of the organizations that has been responding to these raids and arrests at courthouses here in Sacramento County. So you can see the amount of people gathering out here today, and we're going to stay here, talk to more people as they continue to gather. It's still going to go on for at least an hour and a half more as more speakers go on stage. But of course, we'll stay here on the ground and bring you the latest. Live in Sacramento, Carolina Estrada, KCRA 3 News.
Right, Carolina, thank you. A group of people also gathered in downtown Sacramento this afternoon rallying against the immigration raids. This was at 10th and L Streets. This Good Trouble rally was hosted by the group Extinction Rebellion.
Just injustice, you know, we're just here defending our civil rights.
We all have to come together, and that's really basically what it is. And the way things have been torn up with no plan to replace, like, you know, with Doge. So there's so many things we could list why we're here.
We're also hearing from state and local lawmakers on the raids. A spokesperson for Governor Gavin Newsom sent a statement on today's raid saying, quote, the Border Patrol should do their jobs at the border instead of continuing their tirade statewide of illegal racial profiling and illegal arrests. And we spoke with other local lawmakers today.
KCRA 3's Danica Hill is in the newsroom for us right now. So, Danica, I know you've been out gathering these statements all day. So what have you been hearing?
Yeah, I spoke with both City Council member Katie Maple and Representative Ami Bera today. Both of them condemning those raids here in Sacramento, but also saying criminals should be held accountable. Republican Congress member Kevin Kiley sent us this statement that says immigration enforcement is focused first and foremost on people who have criminal convictions or existing deportation orders. This process would be much easier and less disruptive if Governor Gavin Newsom's sanctuary state policy was repealed. The sanctuary law requires law enforcement to release dangerous criminals into the community, causing a direct threat to the safety of Californians. Now, I did ask both Council Member Maple and Representative Ami Bera, what protections do people have here in a sanctuary city and state?
We make it as difficult as possible, and that's part of the reason why we are being targeted. Of course, not just us, but sanctuary cities in general. As you know, the Trump administration has a list of them and has, said that he is going to go after sanctuary cities in every way he can. That does put us at risk, but for us, it's worth the risk, because it means protecting our communities in the ways that we can.
If you want to go after the criminals, that's one thing. But for a lot of folks that are here in the Dreamers, folks that came here as kids, we ought to come up with a way to protect them legally.
And so I guess kind of to follow up to that question, in this moment, what can you guys do right now other than pass a law eventually?
In this moment, we're going to continue to, push back against them. If they're racially profiling, we're going to raise that awareness.
Sacramento Mayor Kevin McCarty also sent us a statement that reads in part, these raids are immoral and inhumane. They are intended to instill fear and chaos and cannot be tolerated in our city. Sacramento has been a sanctuary city for over 40 years, and I will continue to protect all its residents. That statement, he also said that these raids are a violation of civil rights and it undermines the democracy that we have. In the newsroom, Danica Hill, KCRA 3 News.
Well, we also have some statements from other lawmakers on our website. You can check that out. That's at kcra.com.
Sacramento County Sheriff says while they responded to the raid, they did not assist with any immigration enforcement. State law enforcement agencies are legally prohibited from doing so, and the Sheriff's Office does not serve as an immigration enforcement agency. In a statement, the office wrote, quote, our deputies remain committed to protecting all residents of Sacramento County. We strongly encourage anyone to report crimes or suspicious activity regardless of their citizenship or immigration status. And as we told you, Sacramento police say it was aware of the federal raids in Sacramento County, but they say they did not engage in the operation either.
Now, these raids come as the Department of Justice requested 4 California counties now wanting lists of all inmates in their jails who are not citizens of the United States. Those counties include Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, and Riverside. You can see all that concentrated in Southern California. None of these are in, obviously, our area. The DOJ is asking for those inmates' crimes and scheduled release dates. The agency says that it hopes the data will be provided voluntarily, but says it is prepared to get it through subpoenas or other means. Also today, the Trump administration allowing ICE access to Medicaid's recipients' personal data.
That will include addresses, social security numbers, birth dates, as well as the ethnicity and race of Medicaid enrollees. ICE authorities plan to track immigrants who may not be legally in the U.S. Medicaid covers 79 million people. California Attorney General Rob Bonta calls the move a violation of privacy, illegal, and horrifying. In a statement he wrote, we are moving quickly to secure a court order blocking the sharing of this data for immigration enforcement. The president's efforts to pull personal, private, and unrelated health data to create a mass deportation machine cannot be allowed to continue. End of quote from Bonta.
Well, there's a UC Merced study. It says that immigration raids are negatively impacting the state's economy. The study finds a decline of 3.1% in the number of people reporting working in the private sector in California. That's about 465,000 people. The study says that the data shows 364,000 of them are Latino. The study's authors say that a shrinking workforce will impact all sectors of the state's economy.
If someone isn't going to work out of fear, maybe they have less to spend. If they're also not shopping or going to stores out of fear, now there's businesses that are making less money.
The data also suggests the sharpest rates of decline were among non-citizens and women. It's part of a drop in workers not seen anywhere else in the country. Another analysis is expected to look at data between June and July. And we are just getting this into our newsroom. We can tell you that the group NorCal Resist is now confirming that that man that was arrested earlier today, who is a U.S. citizen at that Home Depot immigration raid, has now been released. He is now free. We have more reaction on that from the community and video from the raids coming up. That's on our digital platforms. And make sure to stay up to date as we learn more by downloading the app. Again, we'll have more on that person being freed today from federal custody.